like to invite our next panel discussing about rising unemployment rate. What's the way forward in creating employment opportunities? We have amongst us Raj Raghavan, President and Head HR Indigo, Megha Gupta, Director HR, Fiserv, Murugavel Janaki Raman, CEO Matrimony.com, Gauri Saran, President, Approach International and founder, Forum for Women Leadership for Better India. With the session chair, Sugandh Behel, BW People. I request the people to unmute themselves as and when they speak. Over to you, Sugandh.
Good afternoon, everybody. I believe you might be able to hear me.
Yes.
Welcome to the Business World Conference. Thank you for coming. And I'm extremely delighted to have you all on board. Let's begin this session. I've seen from last couple of days that coupled with humanitarian crisis and muted policy response, the COVID-19 pandemic has brutally exposed and worsened existing vulnerabilities in the Indian economy. Over 3.3 million professionals we see have lost their livelihoods, and the managers and the employers, they're not able to satiate the hunger pangs of their respective workforce. My question to everybody, which is like an open-ended question, we can begin with each panelist, that how are companies strategizing on creating a pool of employment opportunities for the ones who've fallen into the pit of loss of jobs? We can begin with Gauri ma'am.
Hello, I've joined in from my mobile. I'm sorry, I could not get in through the laptop, which is what I would ideally like to
problem,
do.
Ma'am.
But very interestingly, while I shared this, I'm also connecting it to the whole point of we converting into a very different kind of an economy. Digital is now the buzzword. Okay. StreamYard is the second time I'm using StreamYard, but practically every day I'm using a very different digital platform. And the fact is that today, with the current unemployment rates going up, organizations are trying to retain people by shifting their business models. One, to actually a greater, a new kind of a gig-based model, work from home model, digitized model, new ways of doing what they were actually doing earlier. Not just new ways of doing something which they were doing earlier, but also entering into new areas. I think right in the beginning of COVID, when the hospitality industry realized that it's not going to get very far, for some time to come, they actually started thinking of what are the other services they can actually deploy with the same kind of a talent in the scope of or expanding the scope of their business. So I see that while at one end we are hit with job losses, not just in India but world over, there's now enough data coming in terms of what kind of it's been a job loss pandemic, really speaking. But the innovative ways in which organizations have started adopting themselves to the new normal or the new ways of handling their own business models is actually something worth studying. And I see a big shift happening in the manner in which organizations are going to conduct their business, rather than what business they are actually doing.
Fair enough, ma'am. I believe you've made your point, and I believe other panelists will have similar points, but yes, of course, different views. Over to you, Raj sir.
Hey, Sugandh, thank you so very much. Good to see you again. And firstly, my congratulations to... yeah, absolutely. And firstly, my congratulations to those that are going to win the 40 under 40 and those that also participated. I know Murugavel was one of the jury members, and you must have had a tough time doing that. To the topic of today, my heart goes out to those that lost their jobs. It's not easy to lose jobs, and it's not a great time to go find other jobs. That said, Indian unemployment has never been abysmally low, right? We have always bordered around the 9.5%, 10% of those employment that really gets monitored. And there is probably a lot more that does not even get monitored. And as a result, when you see numbers of 23% unemployment, that was in May, etc., it is alarming. But we also need to realize that was the time the country was still under lockdown, right? In the aviation sector that I represent, globally, airlines are probably going to lose upwards of $10 billion just this year. And one of the things that we talk to ourselves is, the key is to survive for this year. And like Gauri Sareen was mentioning, it's also about what else you can do if you can't fly. So for 2 months, airlines could not fly between March 25 and May 25. There were expenses going on for the airlines. You had to continue paying salaries and all of that. It wasn't as though there were no expenses while there were no revenues coming. I mean, expenses were bountiful while revenues were not coming at all. So there's a larger economic turbulence that this COVID caused. Thereafter, things have started coming back to normal. There are green shoots that are already being seen, and not just in my industry but beyond as well. Like for example, Indigo is not back to about 800 flights a day as compared to 1500 prior. Our load factors are still low, but we still have probably about 85% of our workforce that continues to perform their roles, continue to be employed, even as there's some disturbance, I think. I'll continue speaking anyways. So that
sure, sir. Please go ahead.
That continue to be employed. Now, one of the things that I personally like to do is, as and when things start coming back, which probably is about 8 months, 10 months, 12 months away, whenever that happens, to be able to get back those people that we had to unfortunately let go of, right? And we have a very thoughtful view of how we want to do this, and we will continue doing that. In addition, our business model has kind of changed as well, right? I mean, prior to COVID, we did not have cargo flights, we did not have personal charters. All that has started coming in. So I'm not as pessimistic as probably I was a few months ago. I'm not completely optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think things are getting better. It's for us to all get together, pull our brains and raw nerves together to see where this can lead ourselves to. And I'm being kind of optimistic about this.
Well, sir, kudos to your optimism, and I believe it, goes into the direction which we are striving hard for. Megha ma'am, what do you have to say about this? What is your viewpoint?
Yeah, thank you. So, I would say two things that come to my head. One is obviously, with the entire market, and we are in a fintech space. So, our future doesn't look that bad in comparison to many industries who are struggling even today, or, have a fundamental existence question. Definitely there is a hit because the number of, card transactions have reduced, but at the same time, we also are hoping to that fundamental shift that people will have from going away from cash to a lot of extent and start having an online banking or, a digital way of having a payment gateway. Now, with that said, we fundamentally thought that, we are going to have a growth of 30 to 40% this year. And when I say growth from a business standpoint, we assumed ourselves to, grow almost by 30 to 40% in our headcount as well. Now, with all the pandemic situation that has happened, that is necessarily, we are assuming that we're going to flat out for this year and probably for next year as well. Now, with that, I definitely feel from the industry to think about, people who have lost jobs and how do they come back. I think we've already seen in the industry that there are multiple different ways that organizations have started, right from Airbnb going all out and talking about, hey, this person was great. While I had a problem around my business and hence this person is asked to go. But, I definitely vouch that the person that I had hired and is being laid off is fundamentally very, very good, and they are trying to create a marketplace around, how can you go back and hire people who have recently been laid off. That's one example. Similarly, I think Accenture has done something similar to that, wherein they have created a whole lot around, hey, if you are laid off, declare yourself, and multiple recruiters can come together, which is multiple organizations come and pick people from that particular pool. So those are a couple of creative solutions that are coming in. I fundamentally believe there would be two things, that would be required from all of our HR fraternity. One is the mindset shift. A lot of time, when we are going and hiring people, and somebody who's, lost their job, I have seen two things happening. Either the organization are not very open to hire that because they're not sure about the performance standpoint, and the second aspect is negotiating too much on the compensation because they feel, hey, the person doesn't have the job. So I feel those are a couple of mindset shift that the industry will have to take in with all the job losses that's happening. But from a silver lining standpoint, I also feel that this is an opportunity in the entire world to have multiple new business that will start to open, whether it's related to the technology solutions, whether related to multiple other things that will open up, which I do believe will have market open up maybe in 2021 with new kind of jobs that will start to exist.
All right. Well, coming to you, sir, I believe that, the lockdown must have been a period when the user base on the matrimony website must have increased. So I'm really looking forward to, knowing what kind of impact has it, relayed upon your industry. And, if you feel that the job losses have been too much in your industry or too less, or has it been stagnant?
Thank you, Sugant. As you rightly said, during the COVID situation, we saw increase in number of people signing up. It's not only for the matrimony business or the consumer-facing internet business. They saw increase in number of people using the platform. See it any digital-based online businesses, they really got a good momentum because when people are sitting at home and they have very little to do, they are hooked onto online and consumed various online services. The COVID has affected the business. I'm talking about business in general, positively and negatively. There are companies like be it matrimony.com or EdTech company. They are a big beneficiary. Even that e-commerce companies, they are big beneficiaries of the COVID situation. Obviously, number of companies negatively affected is much more than the number of companies got positively impacted. Not only that, that the COVID situation led to the unemployment and layoffs. During the COVID situation, it's opened up a lot of possibilities for company to figure out how efficiently business can be run. Even while that the business we are not well impacted, but we also figured out a lot of things can be done efficiently. While we did taken a call on few hundred people, that has large has to do with the business can be run efficiently. So when people figured out the business can be run efficiently, that also contributed to the employment loss. While there are some short-term challenges, but I tell you, fundamentally, India is on a strong wicket. I could see the number of startups taking place in India, as Gauri said, the digital space. Even during the COVID situation, the kind of money flown into the Indian startups, something is amazing. And I see that in some of the areas, the India can be the startup capital of the world. Like some of the areas like SaaS-based business model, India can be even the global capital. The things which are happening in the global space, that in US, China, the conflict, that can make more company to invest in India. They make in India policy that, and self-sustaining policies. But the government, the way they're going on, the fundamental structural changes and the market opportunity India provides. India is the one country with a large number of youth population. I think the long-term outlook is very good. Well, coming back to your point that what the company should be doing. While there are challenges, but again there are other challenges as well. There's one thing about the talent gap. There's a talent need in the market. There's definitely a gap.
Exactly.
One country where the large number of frontline attrition. One hand you're talking about unemployment. No country in the world has such a large frontline attrition as India. So it has to do with the gap between the talent need and the talent available, and how the people looking at their career versus a job. And more importantly, going forward, HR need to focus a lot on training. Because the way things are taking place in India, the technology changes, it's been happening at a very rapid pace. We can't take an employee and expect that things going to remain as it is for long period to come. It's changing so rapidly. We need to take an employee and look at training and how to make the person to play multiple roles, not limited to one role, because it's happening at a very rapid pace. Okay, these are some of my thoughts. But outlook for India, while you have short-term challenges, but it's too good for India. Actually, we as a country we're going to do very well and extremely very. In fact, we have the challenge how to retain the frontline employees. I think that's a challenge we have.
Really a very optimistic point of view, and I really like that optimistic point of view. I mean, that is really what we are trying to, what should I say? That's the energy, the spirit which needs to really build up the economy in a time when almost a second spate of infections are likely to be hitting us. I think worldwide we've already announced that. I just wanted to re-emphasize a couple of things.
Please, ma'am, please go ahead.
Okay,
please go ahead.
That if I may just pick up from what others said, yeah. So I agree that one of the things which at least in the brick and mortar side, which we are trying to see is the China conflict or whatever has happened in terms of fallout. It could provide a lot of opportunities. Now, the government has to work very closely with the manufacturing industry to see how this can really turn into an opportunity. It's not going to be an opportunity only for domestic industry, but it could be also an excellent opportunity for exports, especially to Southeast Asia belt. Which is willing to, support India, not just willing to support India, but they want to now open up Indian, market for their own manufacturing. Okay, for whatever reasons there's a geopolitical situation emerging, which is going to push that. There is also a US-China situation emerging, which is an opportunity India should grab on, according to me. Okay, not grab greedily, but grab in terms of a strategic
as an opportunity
thing. The second thing. As an opportunity. The second thing is I have been very associated lately in the agri sector, and we just shared about agri reforms. There have been a lot of infrastructure agri reforms which are coming through. It's opening up the market. Government is taking the opportunity to really open up to interventions which are going to let in the private sector in many ways. So lots of opportunities are going to emerge. Now it is for the sector to start thinking that how entrepreneurial energy can actually be released during this time. Food sector in any case has been a positive sector during this time. I mean, food and health sector not for the right reasons, food definitely for the right reasons. New supply chains have emerged, new ways in which, I was just talking to the retail sector, to somebody in Spencer's. It's the first time that they moved from a brick and mortar a real retail outlet model to a digital model, right? So a lot of stuff is happening here. A lot of agri-tech is emerging. A lot of new ways of supply chain are emerging. Great sector to enter in. Healthcare, of course, is a case in point. There's amazing stuff happening in the healthcare. One, the brick and mortar hospitalization sector itself. But apart from that, healthcare can provide a very different range of innovative solutions, because more and more people are now concerned about their health for the first time. So food and health, I kind of relate to each other, and I've been really thick into that sector now. And I see a lot of great opportunities emerging there. That's the third thing I wanted to emphasize is that infrastructure will have to continue, because pre-COVID, infrastructure was one sector which was like really zooming. That is where the government should not slow down. And once that happens, a lot of employment will actually get pushed in there. And we can actually see the pivot. This can be a great opportunity to build the gears of the economy for the next phase. All right. Fourth is reskilling. Again, a great opportunity for reskilling. I think it's already been emphasized. What saddened me a bit is when Raj talked about Indigo having to let go people, and completely understandably because there's no money coming in. But really, we need to break it down into short term to long term. Long term, the travel industry is going to go up. The only thing is the way travel industry is going to operate might have to be a little different, because more and more people now want to operate virtually rather than travel to destinations. Right? So I see a lot of new stuff happening in the travel industry, which is probably going to be a lot more exciting than it ever has been. Raj, just to kind of, share my optimism around it. So the long term really does look very interesting there also, but probably reasonably different from the way it has been,
Has
because
been
the
already
way
done.
work, the way work is going to be organized might change a lot. Just some points which I was sharing, and last but not the least, great time for startups, great time for talent for startups who cannot afford talent. This is the first time I was really helping a company which is not a startup. I was helping a company very recently in the telecom sector, which was kind of it has slowed down, peaked in a way, or plateaued is the right word, in a way. And it was amazing that this was probably the first time they were able to hire the best talent at 1/3 or 1/4 the cost, and with a clear strategy to move to the next phase of, almost double their top line in the years to come. So great opportunity for people out there. And I genuinely feel that outplacement is not the answer. Cutting salaries and ensuring that people can be redeployed even if they're kept at a lower level, because the mental health cost to the industry is going to be a lot higher than any other cost, I would. And that's where I would kind of.
Now, I completely agree with your viewpoint, and this actually leads me to my next question, which probably is gonna sum up everything. So you're saying this is the best time for startups of our companies to actually hire talent at 1/3, 1/4 the cost, which is not usually the case prior to COVID. But then, how do you feel that this unemployment will fill the black hole of talent in market? Now you need Python developers also, and you need all sort of professionals for different verticals. But then companies are not able to hire them at an X range right now. And that area, that vertical is being left in a void, and they're asking their existing employee base to actually pull in and do multitasking. So how do you think it's going to fill that black hole of talent in market? I mean, we can go with Raj sir first.
Yeah, I think there are two things, right? And I've always held this view that all employable people are already employed and will be well employed, right? And as an individual, I am as much responsible for my career as my employer is responsible for. So, like Murugavel was talking, the point is, how can I upskill myself by my own self at my own time, not waiting for a pandemic to happen. I do a lot of mentoring of young students. The other day I was talking to an young student, and she was telling me, Raj, you've been in HR 30 years now. I don't know how somebody employed you for that long, but I'm not going to be staying there this long just doing HR. I'm doing my master's in HR, but I like horse riding, I like dancing, I like bartending, I like singing. I want to do all of this. And gig working is going to be a big deal. My ability to be able to do things that I like to do at my time is going to come. And it's already come in Europe. It's already come in United States. It's already come in India to some extent. And there are industries like e-commerce that we rightly pointed out. I did 8 years in Amazon before I came here. They are continuing to hire. In aviation itself, the industry that I've been in for the last 2.5 years, things are coming back up. And I completely agree with Murugavel when he said that India is probably going to come back up much sooner. In fact, China was the first one to get into COVID and get out of COVID. And if you look at just the load factors in China by way of aviation load factors and the capacity they are flying, they are almost back. The domestic capacity is almost back. And a large country like India, and which is extensively self-reliant on its own, will come back up. Now there is a workforce that is available, and whether you call it black hole or not, I don't know. The point is whether that workforce is going to be useful for things that you're going to be doing in the future. And my view is the responsibility is quietly on me as an individual to be future ready as much as my employer is. So to that extent, I should be able to look at even as I'm coding Python, I need to be looking at what else is happening around the world. Artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, but it's only then been there for the last 4 years or so that you've been talking of machine learning as a big proponent of, how do you get algorithmic decisions made. So the thing is, am I curious? Am I continuing to invest in my own learning? Will I be able to look beyond just the boundaries of my community and see what else is happening? I think this self-reflection is going to be important for the workforce to be employed.
All right, sir. I mean, your viewpoint is in the direction of what I was looking to hear. Let's see what Megha ma'am has to say.
Yeah, so I completely agree to what Raj said, and I fundamentally come from places we believe that growth is if you are in a car, you have to be on the driver's seat. You can't expect somebody else to drive a car for you and then say, "Oh, take a left and take a right." So you have to be on the driver's seat, navigating yourself, and say, "Hey, do I want to go left or do I want to go right?" And of course, mentors are there, coaches are there to guide you, support you, but you have to take the driver's seat. Now, having said that, I believe that when it comes to that black hole, I think while you said, Sugandha, around the fact that people are expected to do a lot more, I somewhere agree to you that there was a pause when organizations have literally stopped hiring, and they were expecting the attrition that is happening goes back to the people that continue to work. But I've also seen that shift in last 6 months, that people are now across the organization are voicing out burnouts, which is primarily for two things: the number of long hours that has come up, and second is of course the workload, because of the time that we all nowadays spend over the virtual machine, or I call it as a laptop fatigue. So that has building, and organizations have started to hear that voice on the ground a lot more, which means I have seen hiring has opened up. Even in my organization, hiring has opened up now. We are hiring full blown to say, "Oh, attrition is happening," is a reality. It may not happen to the fact that what was happening before, but it has happened. We are started to get new clients, which means we are thinking about, okay, we are starting to get new clients, which means we don't have a pool right now. So the only way to fill in talent is from outside. So that's happening. But the biggest difference that I saw during the pandemic and now, and it's just been 6 months, is a lot more investment to the internal talent that organization has started to put in. Now, whether it's the technical skill assessments, whether it's related to how your leadership is growing, I think this pandemic has definitely shifted a lot of mindset of that, rather than hiring a very, very senior folks from outside, then thinking about how are your senior folks rotating within the organization. And I give you a typical example: in IT organization, you have a concept of pool. They go on pool, and then they are placed into different projects. In nutshell, they are typically like a force. If there is no Java skills, you have to learn a new skill of a .NET or some other skill. But how many times do we force your directors or your VPs that how many times to ask them to shift their roles within the organization? And I think this pandemic is a thought for all of us to say, how are we shifting our senior people across the organization? Because the pressure should not be only on your middle layer and your bottom layer, but across the organization. Think differently to say, how am I learning? What are the platforms that organization is giving me to learn? And a biggest learning that we all know from the HR theory is your 70-20-10. You learn the most when you are on the job. So how are we viewing platforms? Of course, we expect individual to be on the driver's seat, but are we providing that right platforms in the organization? So I fundamentally believe with this pandemic that organization have started to think and started to invest a lot more in skilling your internal talent right from top to bottom, and not just the junior folks or the campus hires.
And that's actually a great point, wherein you're laying an equivalent amount of focus on all levels of people. So let's see what sir has in store for us. Sir, what is your viewpoint on the same?
I completely agree with what Raj said. He said so beautifully that people need to take the responsibility of their future. There are two kinds of people: a generalist and specialist. The people in the frontline, workers, they can't be generalists in one area. They have to have the multiple skills, because they need to adapt themselves. Because assume that you're working in a hotel. If you are laid off, don't wait for that restaurant to open up and get the job back. Look at what are the other skills which you can learn and adapt yourself. In fact, one of the beautiful quote is that it's not that the strongest of the species survive. It is not the intelligence of the species survive. It is the one who adapts that survive. So adaptability is one of the important things for not only for the species, that's including human beings as well. So even for the organizations, it's important that adaptability is the key to be for survival. So if you're a generalist, pick up other skill. Otherwise, be a vertical specialist. If you're a vertical specialist and you are always in demand, no matter what, people are always hiring good talent. You are a specialist. If you are a super success person in particular domain, you are always in demand. So the challenge is that if you are a generalist, but generalist in one area, that's a problem. Not a specialist. I think that's the thing. And Gauri, one small point I want to say that helping one company where hiring at 1/3 of salary. Now they may be coming. When the market opens up, that may be a challenge. So I think that's the point. Hiring at 20-30%, okay. 1/3. If the market opens up, they may want to get back the earlier salary. That's the point I wanted.
Yeah.
Amazing.
My real worry is that this low-cost talent is available for probably a very short time, and we might be back into the burner. But having said that, I really appreciate what Megha, Raj, and all of them really emphasized on the reskilling bit and upskilling bit, and the responsibility of the individual as well as the organization. I just wanted to add one more, that there's also a responsibility of the local government and the overall, the national government in being able to create platforms for reskilling. The good thing which I observed during this entire, and this includes me myself, it gave a huge opportunity. If there's one thing which I have seen has been a real positive thing, apart from people getting time at home, which they never did earlier. I know a lot of people used to live out of their suitcases, and this is the first time that they got more time at home. But the very good thing I observed this time, and this, as I said, included me, was that people really spend time in learning new stuff. I think it opened literally a huge box. I will not call it a Pandora's box. That's a negative one. But it opened up an absolutely new goldmine of knowledge, which we were not accessing. We either didn't have the time to access, or we did, or they weren't those kind of what should I say, push, so to speak, to access it. Suddenly I'm observing people setting up webinars, knowledge sessions, new areas of work, and the best of experts coming right across the globe, facing us, we getting an access to that knowledge. I think it's been a huge opportunity. Now, if this whole thing can be leveraged somehow, I mean, we know that there's a Coursera and the Udemy, but I think there needs to be a different level of engagement out here in terms of upskilling and reskilling. We can actually think of going to a very different level. Entrepreneurship, for example, through the online capability building I've observed in these last 5 months, entrepreneurship capability itself has gone up many folds. There are many people who are just being able to pick up. I mean, I remember 2 webinars on food processing of people who knew nothing about food processing. And I can tell you almost 80% of them have entered into this new area completely, which they never did earlier. Right? And this can be multiplied, it can be scaled significantly. So all stakeholders have to work towards, at a very granular level and at a scale level, to see how skill development, a big opportunity for skill development in my view.
Right, ma'am. And it's been such an insightful session that I do have my colleagues who actually joined in, and they really wanted to attend this session, knowing that many of my friends who've actually lost jobs, and they're actually looking forward to companies coming up and saying, yes, we're going to hire full-fledgedly. Indeed, a very insightful session. Thank you so much. Thank you for shelling out time and giving out the insightful information.